Drop it now, and get down. That voice, clip full of adrenaline. Train. I froze. The red dot blinked over my chest, center mass. Someone's trigger finger tensed, waiting for me to move wrong. I couldn't even raise my hands. My right was wrapped around Scout's leash. My dog, my tether to the world. He pressed into my leg, ears flat, trembling. I live here, I tried to say, but the words didn't reach my mouth. My throat locked. Years of training told me how this could go wrong in a blink. A second passed, then another. Then the window shattered. Glass exploded inward like ice under a boot. The canister came fast, small, round, hissing. Scout barked, tried to run, but the leash held. The gas filled the room instantly. My nose burned, eyes watered, chest locked. Scout whined, pawed at me, but I couldn't move fast enough. We collapsed together. I remember his body curling against mine, how he trembled harder than I did. Then it all turned black. They say the mind does strange things when it wakes up from trauma. Colors come first, flickers of blue, red, the blurry yellow of porch light. Then pain, deep in the lungs, raw like scraped metal. Then the taste, chemical, acrid, like burned plastic and bile. And then memory. I am David Turner, age 68, retired Master Sergeant, U.S. Army Special Forces. 3 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq. Decorations I never hung, scars I never named, and 1 dog, Scout, who had more right to the title, Guardian, than most men I've known. I live in a small brick house in Redwood Grove, Arizona, 414 Pine Avenue. My world, modest, quiet. My mornings start with coffee on the porch. The sun hits just right at 6:52 a.m. in spring. Scout stretches on the mat, ears perked for the neighborhood cats. Inside, my medals stay boxed, and the news stays off. That morning, Tuesday, the world decided I wasn't who I am. The first face I saw when I opened my eyes was young, pale, scared, a rookie. He hovered above me on my porch, radio clipped to his shoulder, sidearm loose. His boots were planted wrong, toes inward, off balance. I saw that before I saw the stun gun in his hand. Scout was coughing, high, desperate wheezes like he was trying to clear his own lungs. His body was curled beside mine, 1 paw draped across my chest, claws twitching. I reached out, slow, open hand. Easy, buddy, I whispered. The rookie's eyes flared. Dog's aggressive, he shouted to no one, then fired. The prongs hit my ribs. Current punched through me like a steel fist. I seized, gasped, then crumpled again. Scout barked once, shrill and pain. Then I went under. Again. When I came to the second time, the world had shifted. Noise came in waves, voices, distant shouting, someone swearing through a radio. The air stank of tear gas, sweat, and spent adrenaline. I was on my porch, still, but now my living room was in pieces. Couch overturned. Framed photo of my unit cracked down the middle. The smell of gas soaked into the drapes. I could see Scout limping in a small circle inside, whining. And then I heard it. Wrong address confirmed. Repeat. Target was 412. This is 414. Civilian compromised. My breath caught. They got the house wrong. The man they were after, armed, violent, a threat to the community, was next door. I lived at 414. He lived at 412. 10 feet between windows. A lifetime between identities. Someone screwed up. Someone armed with power, fear, and a bad address. I had heard of this. Vets mistaken for threats. Men with trauma misunderstood as danger. But this wasn't a story on the news anymore. This was my blood in the carpet. My dog shaking in the corner. I didn't move, didn't speak, because every inch of me said, stay small, stay still. Let them figure it out before someone panics again. Are you okay? Someone shouted. I didn't answer. I looked down. My palms were burned from the fall. My ribs ached where the taser had hit. Scout stumbled to me and laid his head on my thigh. His breathing shallow, eyes glassy. That's what broke me. Not the gas, not the shock, not the boots stomping through my home like it was a battlefield. It was Scout. The way he clung to me like I was the only thing in the world still familiar. The way his body said, "I'm scared." But I stayed because he always did. The second hour after impact is when the true damage settles in, not from bullets or gas, but silence. No one spoke to me directly at first. Not the officers, not the armored shadows pacing my lawn. They radioed past me, around me, like I was a malfunction. Not a man, not a veteran, just residual interference. Scout limped toward the door, but paused at the shattered glass. He looked at me as if to ask, "Can we leave now? Is it over?" It wasn't. I stood slowly, every joint aching like someone had poured gravel into my bones. I stepped past the twisted blinds, crunching on bits of broken frame. The couch was still overturned. My favorite mug, the one with "Old Warriors Never Fade" printed in faded blue, lay shattered under the bookshelf. A framed photo of me and my unit at Camp Leatherneck hung crooked on the wall, one side sheared from the concussive force of the tear gas round. Dust floated in shafts of ruined light. Curtains still smoked from the chemical residue. Then came another voice. "Sir, step back." A rookie, same one, maybe, sprinted in through the still open door. He saw Scout, who had laid back down in the corner, and immediately reached for his sidearm. "He's calm," I said, voice hoarse. "He's a service dog." The rookie hesitated. Scout lifted his head. Tail barely moved. But adrenaline, and ignorance, are a terrible match. The rookie didn't listen. Instead, he drew a taser from his vest and barked, "Keep him down." Before I could open my mouth, he fired again. 2 wires. One scream. Into me. Again. The jolt slammed through my ribs like lightning cleaving old wood. My knees gave. My skull hit the doorframe with a crack. Darkness. When I woke, the sky had shifted. Late afternoon. That pinkish hue that sits between mercy and regret. I lay on the porch, shirt soaked through with sweat and whatever chemical sludge had soaked into the air. Scout was curled against me, again. Always. This time, blood ringed the corner of his mouth. His whimpers were quieter now, more like breaths that had nowhere else to go. Inside, my home looked worse. Drawers emptied, kitchen torn apart, dresser overturned. They hadn't stopped with the first mistake. They had assumed I was the threat and acted accordingly. A threat. Me, Master Sergeant David Turner, U.S. Army, 19th Special Forces Group, deployed 6 times. Honored, wounded, retired, peacefully, legally, in good standing, until today. A wrong door, a right name, a hasty call, and everything undone. I dragged myself to the porch swing and sat there, Scout curled at my feet, nose twitching. Every breath he took looked like it cost him more than I could afford. I counted 38 people in my front yard. Uniforms, radios, rifles. Not one of them looked at me. Not one of them said, "Sir." The ache inside wasn't from the shock, or the gas, or the shame. It was from erasure. Mistakes feed on chaos. And today, that chaos came home. It began with thunder. Not the kind in the sky, but the kind that rolls in from asphalt, rubber, diesel, intent. Engines. Heavy ones. Multiple. Scout's ears lifted before I heard it. He didn't bark, just turned his head west, toward the sound. Then they appeared. 6, maybe 7 Humvees, low-slung and thick with armor, crawling down Pine Avenue like a storm cell made of steel. Their paint gleamed tan beneath the dying sun, antennas brushing trees, flags rippling sharp. The Special Forces insignia was unmistakable, and they weren't here for the suspect. They were here for me. The lead vehicle stopped outside my house, brakes hissing like a breath being held. Doors opened in unison. No panic, no rush, just precise steps. Then a man stepped out. Major General Mark Reed. I hadn't seen him in 15 years. Not since Kandahar. Not since the night our convoy took fire from 3 angles and he personally pulled a private out of a flipped MRAP. We were brothers forged in the same fires, though I'd always been his subordinate. Now he walked up my ruined lawn with the bearing of a man who remembered who I was. He wore no helmet, no sunglasses. His face was bare, weathered, but clear. When he saw me slumped on the porch, he paused. "David, my name, not sir, not resident, not target. Are you all right?" I tried to speak, but my throat fought me. All I could do was nod once. Scout wagged his tail weakly. Reed's eyes dropped to him, then to the splinters of my doorframe. He crouched, not like a general, but like a friend, and put a hand on my shoulder. I saw the footage. My stomach clenched. "What footage?" He turned his head slightly. "Body cams. Drone overhead. Some of it leaked." I imagined the image. Me, crumpled. Scout dragging himself beside me, red dot on my chest. "Your neighbor's ring cam caught the taser," he added, voice tight. "The second one. You went down hard." I didn't answer. I just blinked. My body was stiff as dried rope. "I've taken control of the perimeter," he said, standing. "My men are on both ends of Pine. No one comes in or out without my word." From across the street, I heard the shouts. "What the hell is this?" That voice, familiar. SWAT's commanding officer, Hayes. He stormed down the driveway, tactical vest still half buckled. "We had control of this scene. You're interrupting." Reed raised one hand. Hayes stopped mid-sentence. "This is no longer your scene." The silence that followed was thick, tense. Hayes looked ready to argue. Reed didn't blink. "You launched a breach with incomplete confirmation. Used tear gas on a non-violent veteran. Tossed him twice. Endangered a certified service animal. And you failed to positively confirm the address." Hayes stepped forward. "I had a tip at 412. Reed said. "This is 414. A long pause. Then Reed turned to his team. "Secure 412. Quietly. No flashbangs. No aggression. Confirm suspect and escort. Then seal the door." His soldiers moved instantly. Silent. Efficient. Hayes sputtered. "You can't just. I outrank you." That ended it. Within minutes, the chaos began to reverse. Medics moved in with purpose, not confusion. One approached me with gloves, another with Scout's chart already pulled up on a tab. Reed had done his homework. They treated Scout first. Minor irritation. No punctures, the medic murmured. Heart rate high, but stable. "We'll give him a mild sedative and a cool compress for his lungs." He looked up at me. "He's lucky and loyal." I didn't trust my voice, so I nodded. Inside, more troops entered, not to search, but to document. They snapped photos, recorded every overturned drawer, every smashed frame, every footprint on my kitchen counter. "Nothing will be hidden," Reed said. "This is protocol when we fail one of our own." Fail. He said it plainly, not as an excuse, as a fact. By nightfall, the suspect from 412 was gone, taken quietly. No fanfare. His house locked, the warrant sealed. But my house stayed open. And the block transformed. Neighbors peeked from porches. Some stepped closer, arms folded, uncertain. The same people who once waved as I walked Scout now stared like they'd never really seen me before. Maybe they had. I've worn uniforms that pulled eyes toward me like gravity. Combat fatigues, dress blues, patches earned by blood and silence. But none of that made people listen like they did when Reed spoke. He stood on my porch that evening, flanked by soldiers, his coat unbuttoned, voice clear as frost. "This man is not the enemy. This operation is over." That sentence split the air. "Not shouted, declared." Scout pressed his head into my thigh again, like the moment needed grounding. Like he knew. From the perimeter, SWAT began to disperse in tight formations, like ants recalled from a wrong path. The rookies looked down. One of them, the same one who'd fired the taser, paused near the gate. He caught my eye, just for a second, and I saw it, regret. But he didn't step forward. Not then. Reed turned toward the assembled crowd. Neighbors, medics, even city officials had begun arriving. Somewhere, a local reporter was filming with a handheld cam. A city councilwoman, Rodriguez, stood next to my azalea bush with her phone out, face pale. "From this point forward," Reed said, "my men will document, repair, and protect the scene at 414 Pine Avenue. He said my address like a vow. I looked down. My fingers trembled, not from adrenaline now, but from the sudden absence of threat. I didn't know what to do with calm anymore. The lead medic stepped up next. "Mr. Turner, we'd like to transport you and Scout to the VA clinic in Tempe, just for full scans. You've absorbed electrical trauma, tear gas exposure." "I'm not leaving my house," I said, voice steady. The medic hesitated, glanced at Reed. Reed nodded. "Then we bring the clinic here." Within 15 minutes, a mobile unit arrived. Scout was examined first, ears checked, lungs monitored, paws cleaned. They gave him 2 liver treats and set up a cot beside mine. The image must have looked strange from the street. A retired soldier lying on a makeshift cot beside a tired dog, surrounded by camouflage and red tape. But it was real. No theater, no politics, just aftermath. Reed stayed close, arms crossed, boots muddy. "You didn't have to come," I finally said. He looked at me. "Yes, I did. I didn't push it." He pulled out a folder, handed it over. "Timeline of actions," he said. "Video stills, dispatch logs, medical records, already sealed and delivered to your attorney." "I don't have one." "You will by morning." He wasn't offering help. He was restoring what had been taken. Around us, the repair crew started. Engineers in uniform, real ones, unloaded plywood, replacement glass, industrial air purifiers. One soldier adjusted my front steps where the battering ram had splintered the railing. Even my mailbox, bent and half-hanging, was gently reset. I wanted to be angry, or grateful, or something loud, but instead, all I could feel was stillness. Like part of me had just stepped off a battlefield I didn't know I'd entered. Inside, they cataloged the broken things, framed citations from decades past, a small collection of arrowheads, Scout's food bowl, cracked where the shockwave had knocked it off the counter. Everything I'd built, quiet, careful, laid bare. Reed noticed my gaze. "It'll take time," he said. I nodded. "What about the suspect?" I asked. "Detained," he replied, "without incident. We're reviewing the tip source. Early signs suggest deliberate misdirection." Deliberate? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he handed me another item, a small envelope, sealed. Inside was a hand-scrawled note from the rookie. No signature, just words. "I was afraid. I failed you. I'm sorry." I folded it once, put it in my jacket pocket. Some things deserve to be carried a while before they're put away. As night deepened, neighbors began placing things on my porch. Quiet gifts, a blanket, fresh bread, a note card with a child's drawing of a dog and a man holding hands. One neighbor, Mrs. Ellis, brought Scout a toy, chewed on by her late golden retriever. "He deserves something soft," she said. Scout sniffed it, then curled up again, tail thumping once. Reed didn't stay long after that, just long enough to say, "If you need anything, you call me direct." I didn't ask how he still had my number. Some bonds don't get erased by years, only tested. By morning, the sun over Pine Avenue felt unfamiliar, too soft for what had passed, too indifferent. But it came anyway, pouring over rooftops and sidewalks, gold on the broken. My front window had been replaced with clean panes, the jagged frame gone, the scorch marks scrubbed. Engineers had come quietly overnight, leaving only the faint smell of sealant and freshly cut wood. I stood barefoot in the doorway, mug in hand. Not the old one. It hadn't survived. This one came from the medic team, plain white, no message, just warmth. Scout lay in the patch of light by the front mat, snoring gently. His chest rose and fell in rhythm. The swelling around his eyes had gone down. Medics had cleared him fully, lungs intact, no lasting trauma. But I knew better. Dogs remember too, especially ones like him. I'd spent the early hours in my garage, hands covered in dust and linseed oil. Some habits return when control is stripped away. I cleaned my rifle, not because I planned to use it, but because it reminded me of something solid. I rearranged my gear closet, oiled hinges, sorted cans by expiration date. Restoration takes work. Then the letter came, hand-delivered by a state official, left at my door without a knock. State of Arizona, Office of the Governor. Inside, a formal apology. Language neat, sentences precise. The kind of contrition that's been passed through 10 desks and still rings hollow. We deeply regret the series of errors that led to the violation of your home, your dignity, and the safety of your service dog. While procedural failures occurred, we acknowledge the need for restoration, not just of property, but of honor. There were signatures, embossed seals, and a check. $85,000. I stared at the figure for a long time. Then I called Reed. I want that money redirected, I told him. PTSD programs, service dog training, vets with no voice. He didn't argue. By noon, the governor's office released a statement, pressured by public demand. Reed's footage had circulated further than expected. News segments, social media, even a segment on national television. Veteran mistaken for suspect. Tear gas and taser deployed at wrong address. I never watched the full clip. Didn't need to. I'd lived it. That day, Captain Hayes was placed on administrative leave pending internal review. The rookie, unidentified in press coverage, was reassigned to desk duty. There was no satisfaction in that, just inevitability. What did surprise me were the casseroles. Neighbors who had once nodded at me in passing now knocked with dishes in hand. Rice bakes, lasagna, cornbread, a silent language of regret. One boy, maybe 10, left a note tucked in Scout's collar. I'm glad you didn't get hurt bad. My uncle's in the army too. I put it on the fridge. By week's end, volunteers arrived, not by request, but because they'd heard. They helped scrub the last of the gas residue from the walls. A woman from a local veterans group offered to repaint. A few ROTC cadets from the high school came to fix my fence. None of them asked questions. They just worked. When they finished, I invited them inside, showed them the photos I'd salvaged from the wreckage, my unit, my brothers, my deployments. Not to boast, just to say, we were here. We mattered. One cadet, eyes wide, asked, did it hurt when they got it wrong? I looked at him, the honesty in his voice sharper than anything else that week. Yes, I said, but it hurt more to realize they didn't look first. He nodded, like he'd remember that. Scout slept more that week than I'd ever seen. Deep, heavy sleep. He didn't flinch at door knocks anymore. But at night, he pressed close, closer than usual. His way of guarding me, or needing guarding himself. Sometimes, those things are the same. At the end of the week, the city installed a new plaque beside my door. Not for show, for record. David Turner, retired Master Sergeant, U.S. Army Special Forces. Wrongly targeted, quietly resilient. Beneath it, a smaller inscription. Sometimes justice begins with truth spoken aloud. I didn't write that, but I didn't erase it either. Weeks passed. The press faded. The footage stopped replaying. The street was quiet again. Scout and I returned to our porch swing, his head on my lap. The wind soft through the trees. The kind of silence I used to mistake for healing. Now I knew better. Healing wasn't quiet. It was witnessed. That's why General Reed returned. No cameras. No orders. Just him, in civilian clothes, 2 coffees in hand. He sat beside me. Scout lifted his head briefly, then settled back into sleep. Reed handed me a manila folder. Final review documents, compensation transfers, investigation closure. I barely glanced. I didn't come for paperwork, he said. I came because we can't just undo damage. We have to acknowledge it. I nodded, watching the street. You once told me, he added, that serving wasn't about medals. It was about showing up for people who don't expect it. He looked at Scout, then at me. I failed that once. Never again. We sat there a long time. He left before sunset. Scout and I stayed. Redwood Grove remembers that day, not because someone got punished, but because someone made it right. And sometimes, that's what duty really means. Not to win, but to return, to repair, to remember.